The Grand Assembly Hall fell silent when the humans stood up to speak. Daniel Grant walked to the center of the massive chamber, his footsteps echoing against the ancient stone floor. Around him, hundreds of alien representatives watched from their elevated seats. Some looked curious, most looked bored, a few were already laughing quietly among themselves. Daniel was 53 years old. He had spent 30 years in military intelligence before becoming Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. He had seen things that would break most people, but standing here, in front of beings who had traveled the stars for thousands of years before humans learned to make fire, he felt very small. Behind him, Admiral Laura stood with her arms crossed. She was the commander of Earth's entire defense fleet, and she had come to this summit as his military advisor. Her presence alone had caused whispers among the delegates. Humans rarely brought their military leaders to diplomatic meetings. High Arbiter, the ancient being who led the Galactic Council, raised one of his 4 hands. The gesture meant Daniel could speak. "Thank you, High Arbiter," Daniel said. His voice was calm and steady. "I know it is unusual for such a young species to request emergency speaking time. I know many of you think we have nothing worth saying, but I am asking you to listen, just this once." He touched a device on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with a red circle pulsing at the outer edge. 6 months ago, our deep space probes detected unusual activity in this region, Daniel continued. We sent more probes, then we sent ships. What we found is something that many of you believe is just a story, a myth, a legend used to frighten young species. He paused and looked around the room. The collective is real, and it is waking up. For a moment there was complete silence. Then the laughter started. It began with the delegation, a species known for their cruel sense of humor. Soon others joined in. The sound filled the chamber like a wave. Daniel did not move. He did not react. He simply waited. High Arbiter raised his hand again, and the laughter slowly died down. The ancient being's face showed something that might have been amusement. "Ambassador Grant," said, his voice deep and slow. "They are indeed a legend, a very old one. They were supposedly a machine intelligence that destroyed countless civilizations 1,000,000 years ago, but there is no proof they ever existed. They are a story, nothing more." "With respect, High Arbiter, we have proof." Daniel changed the display. Now it showed images captured by human ships, massive structures floating in the darkness of space, ships the size of moons, energy readings that were off every known scale. "This is what we found. These machines are not dead. They are not a myth. They are activating and they are moving toward populated space." A delegate spoke up. "How do we know these images are real? Humans have only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Perhaps your probes malfunctioned." "Our probes did not malfunction," Daniel said. "And our technology, while young, is accurate. We have this data dozens of times. That will reach the border systems in approximately 6 months. More murmurs spread through the chamber. The delegate shifted uncomfortably in his seat. High Arbiter leaned forward. "Ambassador Grant, I appreciate your concern. Truly, I do. It is admirable that such a young species wishes to protect the galaxy. But you must understand our position. We have governed this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have faced many threats. If they existed, we would know." "You would know," Daniel repeated. "Because you are old and wise and we are young and foolish." "I did not say that." "You did not have to." The chamber went quiet again. Daniel's words hung in the air like a challenge. Laura stepped forward. Her uniform was crisp, her posture perfect. She looked at the assembled delegates with eyes that had seen war. "I am Admiral Laura," she said. "I command every warship Earth has ever built. I did not come here to beg. I came here to offer help. Right now, Earth is mobilizing. Our shipyards are working at full capacity. Our soldiers are training for a threat most of them do not fully understand. We are doing this because we believe the danger is real." She paused and let her gaze sweep across the room. "We are offering to share our intelligence. We are offering to coordinate our defenses with yours. We are offering alliance. But we will not offer twice. If you choose to ignore us, we will defend ourselves alone. And we will remember who stood with us and who laughed." The silence that followed was different from before. There was no laughter now. Some delegates looked angry, others looked thoughtful. A few, like the young counselor named Myra, looked worried. High Arbiter considered the humans for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "The Council thanks humanity for their warning," he said. "But we cannot mobilize our forces based on unverified claims from a species that has barely learned to travel between stars. The matter is closed." Daniel nodded. He had expected this. He had hoped for better, but he had expected exactly this. "Then I have one final thing to say," he said. "In 6 months, we'll reach the border systems. Millions of innocent people will be in danger. We are offering our help now today while there is still time to prepare. This offer will not come again." He looked directly at High Arbiter. "When the screaming starts, do not call us. We will already be fighting. The question is whether you will be fighting beside us or hiding behind us." He turned and walked out of the chamber. Laura followed without looking back. Behind them, the council erupted into noise. Arguments, accusations, and dismissals filled the air. But underneath it all, in the hearts of a few who had seen the look in Daniel Grant's eyes, a small seed of doubt had been planted. The humans knew something. They were certain of it. And humans, for all their youth and foolishness, had a strange habit of being right about the things that mattered most. 6 weeks after the summit, the galaxy had mostly forgotten about the human warning. News channels across 100 worlds had made jokes about it. The young species from the small blue planet had embarrassed themselves with primitive superstition. It was a funny story, nothing more. On Earth, nobody was laughing. Commander Moore stood on the bridge of the Relentless, one of Earth's warships. His crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring sensor data that made his blood run cold. They were hidden behind a dead moon at the edge of known space, watching something that should not exist. 3 massive structures floated in the darkness ahead. Each one was larger than any station the Council had ever built. They were covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift and move, like living metal. Energy readings pulsed from their cores in rhythms that almost sounded like heartbeats. "Are you getting all of this?" asked his sensor officer. Lieutenant Sam Harper, a young man barely 25 years old, nodded without looking up from his screens. "Every bit of it, sir. The readings match exactly what the probes found. These things are definitely. And they are definitely active." "Yes, sir, and moving, slowly but moving, toward space." Closed his eyes for a moment. The Council had laughed. They had called humanity foolish and young, and now was looking at proof that they were all going to die if something was not done. "Maintain radio silence," he ordered. "We cannot let them know we are here. Send an encrypted burst to Earth Command, Priority Alpha, then we wait and watch." The message was sent. It would take hours to reach Earth, and hours more for any response. In that time, could do nothing but watch the ancient machines drift slowly toward populated space. Back on Earth, General Chris Palmer read the message in his secure office. The words confirmed what he had feared since the summit. They were real, they were coming, and the galaxy was not ready. He picked up his communicator and called an emergency meeting. 2 hours later, he stood before the United Earth government. These were the leaders of humanity, the people responsible for 8 billion lives on Earth and another 2 billion across the colonies. They looked tired and worried. "The situation is worse than we thought," Palmer said. "Our scout fleet has confirmed activity at the coordinates Ambassador Grant presented to the Council. The machines are moving faster than our initial estimates. We have maybe 4 months before they reach populated systems." "What about the Council?" one of the leaders asked. "Have they responded to our latest reports?" "They have not responded because we have not sent any," Palmer said. "Ambassador Grant made our position clear at the summit. We offered help. They refused. We are not going to beg." "But millions of people could die." "Yes, and that is their choice, not ours. Our job is to protect humanity. We need to start evacuating our outer colonies immediately. Everyone within range of the advance needs to be moved to safer space." The evacuation began the next day. Human ships traveled to distant colony worlds and began loading civilians. The official reason given was routine relocation for economic purposes. Almost nobody believed it, but nobody asked too many questions either. Humans had learned long ago to trust their military when it said to move. While Earth prepared for the worst, the rest of the galaxy continued to ignore the coming storm. Trade ships flew their usual routes. Diplomats argued about minor treaties. Life went on as if nothing was wrong. But not everyone was blind. Counselor Myra of the sat alone in her quarters, reading human reports that she should not have. She had obtained them through unofficial channels, contacts she had built over years of quiet work. The data was clear, the evidence was real, and her people were directly in the path of destruction. She made a decision that could end her career. She opened a secure channel and sent a message to Daniel Grant on Earth. It took 3 days for his response to arrive. When it did, his words were short and cold. "Counselor, your concern is noted. However, we offered partnership at the summit. Your government chose mockery. We will not forget that. Earth's resources are now committed to protecting our own people. We suggest you do the same." Myra read the message twice. Then she read it a third time. The humans were angry and she could not blame them. Her own government had led the laughter. Her own High Arbiter had dismissed their evidence as superstition. She sent one more message. "Is there nothing that can change your mind?" The reply came faster this time. "Actions, counselor, not words. When your people are ready to act, we will talk. Until then, good luck. You will need it." She closed the channel and sat in darkness for a long time. Far away at the edge of known space, Moore watched them begin their harvest. A small, uninhabited moon drifted into range of one of the massive structures. Within hours, it was gone. The machines had stripped it completely, taking every resource, every mineral, every atom of matter that could be used. Where a moon had been, there was only dust. His crew watched in horror. "That moon was twice the size of Earth's," Sam Harper whispered. "They destroyed it in hours." "They did not destroy it," said quietly. "They ate it. They are feeding, building, growing, and when they are strong enough, they will move to bigger prey." He turned to his communications officer. "Send another message to Earth. Tell them what we saw, and tell them to prepare for war." The message flew across the stars, carrying news of destruction and death. It reached Earth just as the first evacuation ships were leaving the outer colonies. It reached Daniel Grant as he sat alone in his office, wondering if he had done enough. And somewhere in the vast halls of the Galactic Council, High Arbiter received a report about unusual energy readings at the edge of space. He read it once, dismissed it as sensor malfunction, and went back to his other business. The storm was coming, and those who could have stopped it were still looking the other way. They arrived on a quiet morning. The people of Prime were just starting their day when the sky turned dark. 3 massive ships appeared above their world, blocking out the sun. Each one was miles across, covered in that strange shifting metal that seemed almost alive. The first shots came without warning. Beams of energy cut through the atmosphere and struck the planet's surface. Cities vanished in seconds. 12 million people died before anyone could even send a distress signal. The defense fleet responded immediately. Their ships were among the finest in the galaxy, built with technology refined over thousands of years. They attacked, though, with everything they had. It was not enough. The machines adapted to every weapon. Shields that should have been unbreakable bent and reformed. Attacks that should have caused massive damage were absorbed and redirected. Within hours, the fleet was reduced to scattered debris floating in space. And then the harvesting began. News of the attack spread across the galaxy like fire. Emergency communications flooded the Galactic Council chambers. Representatives screamed and argued and blamed each other. Fear replaced arrogance almost overnight. High Arbiter stood at the center of the chaos, trying to restore order. His ancient face showed something that many had never seen before: fear. "We must contact Earth," he said. "We must ask for their help." A communication was sent to human space. The response came back automated. "Earth Defense Forces are currently engaged in priority operations. Your message has been logged." Tried again and again, each time the same response. "They are ignoring us," a delegate said. "After everything we said at the summit, they are letting us die." "Can you blame them?" another voice asked quietly. It was Counselor Myra. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying for her destroyed. "We laughed at them, we called them children, we dismissed their evidence as superstition. Why should they help us now?" Nobody had an answer. While the council argued, humanity was busy. For 4 months they had been preparing. Colonies had been evacuated. Shipyards had worked without rest. Soldiers had trained for a war most of them never expected to fight. Earth's territory was now a fortress. Defense platforms surrounded every inhabited world. Fleets patrolled every border. Humanity had turned inward, protecting its own, exactly as they had promised. But something was changing. Amy Carter was a journalist. She had been embedded with Earth's fleet for weeks, documenting the preparation and training. She was on a supply ship near the border when the first refugee vessels appeared. They were ships damaged and crowded with survivors. There were thousands of them, maybe millions, fleeing the destruction of their worlds. They were heading toward Earth's territory because they had nowhere else to go. Amy recorded everything, the ships filled with crying children, the wounded and dying packed into cargo holds, the look of complete despair on faces that had never known defeat. She broadcast her footage across every human network. Within hours, billions of people had seen it. And something shifted in the heart of humanity. General Palmer was in his command center when the public response began flooding in. Messages from ordinary citizens, petitions from colony leaders, demands from politicians who had been elected to represent the people's will. They all said the same thing: we have to help. Palmer called Daniel Grant. The people want to intervene, he said. They saw the refugees, they want us to fight. Daniel was quiet for a moment. The council left us to stand alone. They mocked us. They ignored every warning. I know. If we help them now, we risk everything. Our fleet, our people, our future. I know that too. There was a long silence. What do you think we should do? Daniel finally asked. Palmer closed his eyes. He thought about his own family safe on Earth. He thought about the children in those refugee ships. He thought about what it meant to be human. I think we did not come this far as a species by letting others burn, he said, even if they deserve it. Daniel sighed. It was the answer he had expected. It was the answer he had hoped for, even if he could not admit it. Give the order, he said. All fleets, new heading. The message went out to every human ship in the fleet. Admiral Laura read it aboard her flagship and smiled for the first time in months. All ships, this is Admiral. We have new orders. We are moving to intercept the... We are going to help everyone we can, regardless of species. I know what the council did. I know how they treated us. But we are not them. We are human, and humans do not stand by while innocent people die. She paused. This will be the hardest fight of our lives. Many of us will not come home. But when this is over, the galaxy will know what humanity truly is. Not a young species, not primitive fools, but people who came when called, even when we had every reason not to. The fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships, the largest force humanity had ever assembled, turned toward the darkness where they waited. Moore watched from the bridge of the Relentless. His ship was battered from weeks of hidden observation, but his crew was ready. About time, Sam Harper said quietly. Nodded, let us go save the galaxy, even if it does not deserve us. The stars stretched as the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, Earth stood protected and strong. Ahead of them, death and fire and glory waited. And in the halls of the Galactic Council, word arrived that the humans were coming, not to hide, not to defend only themselves. They were coming to fight for everyone. High Arbiter read the report and felt something he had not felt in 1,000 years. Hope. The battle began in the darkness between stars. Human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, spreading across space like a net. Ahead of them, 5 harvesters moved toward their next target, a colony world with 20 million inhabitants. They detected the humans immediately. Their sensors swept across the fleet, analyzing weapons, shields, and tactics. They had consumed 1,000 civilizations. They had never lost. These small ships from a young world were no different from any other prey. They were wrong. Admiral Laura watched the enemy from her command chair. Her flagship, the Horizon, was at the center of the formation. Around her, 300 human warships waited for her order. They are scanning us, her tactical officer reported, trying to adapt to our weapons. Laura smiled. Let them scan, begin Phase 1. The human fleet split apart. Ships scattered in what looked like chaos, moving in patterns that seemed random. They tried to predict their movements, but there was nothing to predict. Human tactics were not based on logic. They were based on creativity, instinct, and a willingness to do the unexpected. Small fighter craft launched from the larger ships. Squadrons of pilots flew directly at the harvesters, drawing fire away from the main fleet. It was dangerous. It was possibly suicidal. It was exactly what humans were good at. Kate Miller led the first squadron. She was 30 years old, the best pilot Earth had ever produced. Her was ghost because enemies never saw her until it was too late. "Stay tight and stay fast," she told her pilots. "Draw their attention, make them focus on us. The big ships need time." Her squadron dove toward the nearest harvester. Energy beams cut through space around them, missing by meters, then centimeters. Kate twisted and rolled, using her ship's speed to stay alive. Behind her, she heard her pilots calling out targets, warnings, and prayers. 2 of her pilots died in the first 30 seconds, then 3 more, but they kept coming. Back on the horizon, Laura watched the fighter screens. Each loss was marked with a small red indicator. Each indicator was a person she had sent to die. "Phase 2, she said quietly. "Launch the Prometheus." Deep in the human fleet, a single ship activated special systems. This vessel carried Dr. West, the scientist who had spent years studying recovered code. She had found something buried in their programming, a flaw hidden deep in their adaptive systems. The Prometheus protocol was not a bomb. It was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a virus designed to turn this greatest strength into their greatest weakness. But it required delivery at close range, inside their shields, almost touching their hulls. "The package is ready," reported. "We need a delivery vehicle." Laura knew what that meant. Someone would have to fly directly into a harvester. Someone would have to die. Before she could ask for volunteers, Kate Miller's voice came through the communication system. "Horizon, this is Ghost. I heard the request. I am going in." "Miller, that is a suicide run." "I know, but my squadron already gave their lives to get us this chance. I am not going to waste it." Kate turned her damaged fighter toward the largest harvester. Her engines screamed as she pushed them past their limits. Warning lights flashed across her controls. She ignored them all. They saw her coming. They focused their fire on this single small ship racing toward them. Beams of energy struck her shields, tearing through metal and systems. Her ship began to break apart around her. But she did not stop. At the last possible moment, she released the Prometheus payload. A tiny device, no larger than a human hand, flew through the gap in the harvester's shields and attached to its hull. Kate's ship exploded a heartbeat later. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the harvester began to shake. Its shields, designed to adapt and strengthen, instead collapsed inward. The virus spread through its systems like fire through dry wood. The massive machine tore itself apart from the inside. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. Across the fleet, human crews watched in stunned silence. Then the cheering began. "It works," whispered. "It actually works." Laura allowed herself one moment of grief for Kate Miller and all the others who had died. Then she gave the next order. "All ships, we know how to kill them now. Press the attack." The battle turned. Human ships carried more Prometheus devices, and volunteer pilots delivered them to target after target. Each delivery cost lives, but each success destroyed a harvester that would have killed millions. The Galactic Council watched from afar. Their remaining ships, too damaged to fight effectively, stood witness to something they had never seen. A young species, barely 2 centuries old, was defeating an enemy that had destroyed civilizations for 1,000,000 years. "How?" High Arbiter asked. "How are they doing this?" Counselor Myra stood beside him. She had arrived with a small fleet, the only ships her people had left. They had come to fight alongside humanity, to prove that not all of the galaxy had abandoned them. "They understand she said quietly, "because they recognize them." "What do you mean?" "The humans have built machines like this before, war machines, weapons that could destroy their own world. They learned to defeat them because they had no choice. They survived themselves first. Now they are using that knowledge to save us." Watched as another harvester exploded. Human ships flew through the debris, already targeting the next enemy. He thought about everything the Council had said about humanity. Young, primitive, foolish, children playing at space travel. They were none of those things. They were survivors, fighters, people who had stared into the darkness of their own nature and come out stronger. He opened a communication channel to the horizon. "Admiral, this is High Arbiter. We were fools. Tell us what you need." Laura's response came quickly, her voice tired but strong. "Fight beside us, not behind us, beside us." Turned to his officers. "You heard her. All ships join the human formation. Follow their lead." For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council followed instead of commanded. And together, human and alien ships pushed forward into the fire. Moore's ship, the Relentless, took heavy damage protecting a Council medical frigate. His engines failed. His weapons went offline, but his crew refused to abandon their post. They stayed and fought with whatever they had left because that was what humans did. By the time the battle ended, half the human fleet was destroyed. Thousands of soldiers had died, but every harvester in the system was gone. And the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 1 year had passed since Daniel Grant stood before the Galactic Council and delivered his warning. 1 year of war, death, and sacrifice. 1 year that had changed everything. The combined fleet of humanity and the Galactic Council floated in the darkness of deep space. Before them stood the Origin Station, a structure so massive it imagination. This was where the machine intelligence had been born 1,000,000 years ago. This was where it had to end. Daniel Grant stood on the bridge of the horizon, looking at the ancient station through the viewport. He was older now, worn down by months of diplomacy and difficult decisions. But his eyes were still sharp, and his voice was still steady. "Are we sure about this?" Admiral Laura asked. She stood beside him, her uniform bearing new medals for battles won at terrible cost. "No," Daniel admitted, "but we have to try." The plan was simple but dangerous. Instead of destroying them completely, humanity wanted to offer them a choice. Surrender and return to dormancy or be wiped from existence. It was mercy that most species would not have offered. It was exactly what made humans different. A shuttle launched from the horizon, carrying Daniel toward the station. His security team wanted to come with him, but he refused. This had to be done alone. This had to be done as an act of trust, not force. They let him land. They were curious about this small creature from a young world who had fought them to a standstill. Their collective intelligence watched as he walked through their ancient halls, surrounded by machines that could kill him in an instant. Daniel stopped in a central chamber. The walls were covered with screens showing data in languages no living being could read. A voice spoke to him, mechanical and cold. "You have come to destroy us." "I have come to talk," Daniel said. "Destruction is only one option." "We do not understand. You have the weapons, you have the numbers, you could end us now." "Yes, we could." "Then why do you not?" Daniel thought about how to explain. There were machines, logical and efficient. They understood threat and survival. They did not understand choice. "Because we have been where you are," he said. "Humanity almost destroyed itself many times. We built weapons that could end our world. We used them on each other. We came close to extinction because we forgot that there were other options besides violence." He looked up at the screens around him. "We learned that the hardest choice is not killing. It is choosing not to kill when you have every reason to do so. That choice is what makes us human, and we are offering that choice to you now." They were silent for a long moment. Their collective mind processed this information, trying to find the logic in it. "If we refuse, you will destroy us." "Yes. If we accept, what happens?" "You return to dormancy. You sleep as you did for 1,000,000 years. Human scientists will ensure you cannot wake again without permission, but you will not be destroyed. You will survive." "Survival without purpose is not survival." Daniel shook his head. "I disagree. Survival means you still exist. It means there is still a chance for something to change. Death means nothing ever changes again." Another long silence, then the voice spoke again. "We were created to consume, to grow, to spread. It is all we know." "Then learn something new." "We did." The machines considered his words. Somewhere in their ancient programming, a calculation was made. The odds of victory against the combined fleet were low. The odds of survival through surrender were higher. Logic demanded acceptance. But it was not logic that made the final decision. It was something else, something that had stirred in the collective since they first encountered humanity. Curiosity, wonder, a desire to understand these strange creatures who offered mercy to their enemies. "We accept," the voice said. "We will sleep." Daniel let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "Thank you." 3 months later, the work was complete. The Origin Station was sealed, surrounded by monitoring devices built by human and alien scientists working together. The machine intelligence slept once more, dreaming whatever dreams machines could dream. The Galactic Council chambers had been rebuilt after the war. They were different now, expanded to include new members, new voices. Humanity sat among them as equals, not as children seeking approval. High Arbiter called the assembly to order. He looked older too, humbled by the past year. "We gather today to honor those who saved us," he said, "and to acknowledge mistakes that should never have been made." He turned to where the human delegation sat. "To Ambassador Daniel Grant and the people of Earth, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apology. You warned us. We laughed. You offered help. We refused. And when the darkness came, you saved us anyway. We do not deserve your forgiveness, but we ask for it nonetheless." Daniel stood. The chamber fell silent. "Forgiveness is easy," he said. "Trust must be earned. You hurt us with your words and your dismissal. That wound will take time to heal. But we did not come this far to hold grudges. We came to build something better." He looked around at the assembled delegates. "We will lead your military forces as you have asked. We will share our technology and our knowledge. But we will never again ask permission to protect innocent lives. When we see danger, we will act. When we hear cries for help, we will answer. That is who we are. That is who we will always be." Admiral Laura stepped forward. Moore stood beside her, recovered from his injuries and promoted to commander of the first joint human-alien fleet. Behind them stood the survivors, the heroes, the ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. "We accept leadership," Laura said. "But we do not accept worship. We are not gods. We are people just like you. We make mistakes. We have flaws. The difference is that we learn from them. We hope you will do the same." The council voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms. For the first time in 10,000 years, leadership passed from ancient hands to young ones. Amy Carter broadcast the ceremony across the galaxy. Her documentary about the war had been watched by billions on every inhabited world. Now she stood in the chamber, recording history as it was made. When the ceremony ended, she spoke to her viewers one last time. "They asked us why we came back to save them after everything, why we risked our lives for species that had mocked and dismissed us. The answer was simple, so simple that many of them could not understand it." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. "We are human. It is what we do. Not because we are better than anyone else, not because we expect reward or gratitude, but because somewhere along our difficult history we learned that the measure of a species is not how it treats its friends. It is how it treats those who have wronged it." She smiled. "They called us young, they called us foolish. They were right about one thing: we are young, and the young still believe in things like mercy, compassion, and second chances. Maybe that is what the galaxy needed all along." The broadcast ended. The stars continued to turn, and humanity took its place among them, not as children but as protectors. The final warning had been heard at last, and the galaxy would never forget the ones who delivered it.